Hey everyone, it's Alice. Welcome back to another GRE video. We're continuing today on verbal discrete questions with the hard double blink. And if you have missed any of the previous videos, please click over there to get the full playlist. What I want you to keep in mind for today is you want to make sure you use your answer choices to your advantage. For double or triple blanks, you will always get 3 answer choices, and you want to compare the first and the second blank, or the first, second, and third blank to help you get to the right answer, especially if you already know the relationship between them. The example that I did in the last video is a really good example of this, but this example is also really great, and it's a very, very useful technique in this kind of question. The question is this: Serling's account of his employer's reckless decision-making blank that company's image as blank bureaucracy full of wary managers. This is a really great question because how short it is. I mean, look, it's just a few words, and a lot of the easy one blank questions are about the same length. The trick here lies in figuring out what the relationship is between the first blank and the second blank, and what to expect in that type of words that would go there. The first thing to take note here is this reckless decision making. We have Serling, who is talking about his employer's reckless decision making, presumably something that is really bad, especially because the word reckless usually implies something that not only you're not really thinking about or considering, but it's really in a bad way. It's something that you just really don't give a flying fuck about, even if it is something that you really should be. And usually in an employer's case, of course, you should be thinking about things a little bit more. So the first part is the reckless decision making. And then on the other hand, we have the company's image as a bureaucracy full of wary managers. Now, if you think about this, there are a lot of signs that point to these two being total opposites. So again, on the one hand, we have this recklessness, whatever happens, happens, and oops, too bad. On the other hand, we have this image of a bureaucracy, and the implication of a bureaucracy is that things progress slowly and steadily because you're checking everything at each point, and you might have a lot of paperwork to make sure that everything is being documented properly and thought through, and there is a very standardized process to go through everything. You also have this full of wary managers, so even the managers are thinking really thoroughly, they are taking it slow, they're not risk-taking. So we have a really stark contrast between the actual reckless decision-making that Serling is alleging, and we have the company's image as a bureaucracy full of wary managers. As a result, you can really see a big contrast between these two things, and that serves as the foundation for this question. When we take a look at the different answer options for blank 1, we're looking for something that highlights the difference. The 3 answer choices are belies, which means to disguise or to contradict. B is exposes, and C is overshadows. For A, belies, this seems to make a lot of sense because we have, again, the recklessness and the bureaucracy forming really contrasting ideas, and belies really shows that we are contradicting those two ideas. So Serling on some level is a sort of whistleblower of, hey, I'm revealing that the employer is actually making these really reckless decisions. The other potential option is exposes. The reckless decision making exposing the company's image on the surface might make a little bit of sense, but it doesn't really fit here because we are not really exposing anything. It's not the actual decision making that is exposing, it's Serling's account that is exposing. Nothing is really being exposed here, especially because what comes after this blank is not something that's really being exposed here. The reason is that we're talking about the company's image. If you think about what the image of different companies are, that is their public face. That's what they want you to think. That is something that is not only publicly known, but it's something that they publicly tell you about continuously, and they try to build on that and make you believe it. That's not really something that should be exposed. A company's image is something that is really readily shared, so it can't be exposed. The third answer choice here is overshadows. The reckless decision making overshadows the company's image as a bureaucracy full of wary managers. This is a really difficult option because it seems like it could be correct. I think, however, that something that overshadows another is something that's sort of entirely in a different realm. What I mean by that is that when you have one thing overshadowing another, those really have to be two different things. So if I have one brother overshadowing another brother, for example, we have two brothers, two different people to talk about to begin with. Here, we're talking about the actual decision-making process. The first description being recklessness, and the second description being a bureaucracy full of wary managers. They're describing the same process, but it's really just what is shown to the public and what is actually happening. Here, overshadows doesn't really make sense because we really need to be comparing two different things rather than two different descriptions of the same thing. The best answer choice here is going to be A, belies. Again, because we have a stark contrast between the reckless decision making and the company's supposed image of a bureaucracy. For the second blank, it's a little bit difficult to know what kind of word we're looking for here because there's not too much information, but in this case we can take a look at what the answer choices are. A, an injudicious, B, a disorganized, and C, a cautious. All of these, of course, are adjectives, which make a lot of sense. What is really good to note about this is that we're describing this bureaucracy. The thing about this is that we're thinking about the company's image. The word that we're looking for here has nothing to do with the reckless decision making that's mentioned at the beginning of the sentence. What we're looking for in blank 2 is a description of the bureaucracy that really furthers this idea of what the company's image is and furthers this idea of something full of wary managers. Wary, of course, as I've been saying, means quite careful, really skeptical, slow to act, right? If we take a look at the first answer choice, injudicious, you can think of it as in, meaning not, judicious, like judgment, so of poor judgment, essentially. A bureaucracy full of wary managers really should not be injudicious. This should not be a company's image, right? It really would be totally contradictory to the bureaucracy with a lot of wary managers. E is along the same lines, so if we're talking about disorganization, it's definitely possible to have disorganized bureaucracy. But again, what we're thinking about here is the company's image, which is usually something that they want to be very crystal clear, they want to be very perfect. So having something that is disorganized is quite opposite. That's why F, cautious, makes the most sense here. Of course, cautious is sort of a synonym to wary, so you can see that that kind of gives it away. But you also want to think about whether blank 2 needs to agree with the wary managers or if the word in that blank needs to disagree. Here, because we're looking at the full company image of the bureaucracy, it makes the most sense that those two words would agree and we would have a cautious bureaucracy full of wary managers. For this video, keep in mind that you want to use your answer choices to your advantage. See how the answer choices compare to each other and what kind of word you're looking for when you're looking through all of those options. You'll have 3 different answer choices if you're looking at double or triple blanks, and looking at the relationship between all of the different words and parts of the sentence will really help you out. For more information on how you can actually implement these tips and tricks into getting a better score on your GRE, please visit alicechengre.com. I have more information about what it's like to work with me. For example, that I was patient and kind, I explained things to Sarah thoroughly and offered examples and tips. With Joshua, I gave him a better understanding of what he should work on to get over that 150 score that he was aiming for. I have more information about how private GRE tutoring works with me. For example, you can choose between writing, quantitative, and/or the verbal section. I will give you a customized study plan with session agendas for each time we meet. I can provide sample questions, different study resources, do a content review, go over strategies and examples with you, and as always, I offer flexible payment and scheduling options. Thanks so much for watching.